How to automate finding and analyzing deals in real estate. This is probably the number one question I get is how to start from a leads all the way down to being able to close a deal. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the 5-step process in an investor deal flow. Leads, analyzing, notification, offers, and closing a deal. How do you do this from end to end? And how do you automate it? First, a little bit about myself. My name is Ariel Herrera, CTO of Coffee Clozers, and originally I'm from New Jersey. I went to Rutgers University for my undergrad and started my career as an analyst. But I quickly met the bug of being able to program and derive data insights. So I moved over my career to data science, where I became data scientist, looking at complex problems and becoming a manager. I now live in Tampa, Florida, but the New Jersey roots are still in me. I'm a huge sports fan, including the Yankees, who I try to see as often as possible. So, over the last 4 years of being involved in the real estate space and interacting with the community, I found 3 main reasons people never get started. First, researching a market is difficult, especially if you're looking out of state. Deciding on a strategy is overwhelming. Given that there's a new hot strategy every few months, it can be difficult to know which one to choose. Finding the right property is hard. One market can have 5,000 plus properties. How do you filter that down to one? For the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on the last point, finding the deal. And as I started my journey of automating finding my own deals, I realized there was practically no documentation or guidance. So I decided, let me try to use data analytics to find deals quickly. And I shared my solutions on YouTube to help others not face the same mistakes as I have. So now going into the investor deal flow. Now, if you're new to investing or if you have been already, it's good to picture in your mind the funnel of investing. There's first leads, how we find properties that are for sale that we can buy. Analyzing, will the numbers work? Is this a good investment? Notifications, having alerts on properties like having a buy box that meets our criteria of a good deal. Offers, how we actually send an offer to a seller or a homeowner. And closing, how do we close and become property owners? For each of these steps, I'm going to give you actionable tips on how you can automate your workflow. I've never seen a presentation do this from end to end for passive real estate investors. So hold on tight because we're going to cover a lot in a short period of time. So let's get to it. First, starting off with leads. Now, you may have invested in real estate before and you have a good concept of leads, but to make sure we're all on the same page, what a lead is an individual or organization that has demonstrated a potential interest in what you're looking to sell. So if we go through an example, let's say if you're an owner of a gym and you're looking to get more customers in to increase your revenue, what are some ways that you may try to get new customers to come in through the door? You may try to acquire a competitor email list. So maybe you go to download for cost data of customers who have gone to Crunch or other related gyms that you could try to market to. Maybe you host a seminar, how to lose weight in 30 days, to try to get people that would be interested in a gym. You may put on your social media links that you conduct tours, so someone can go directly to the link and quickly book a tour for your facility. Or maybe you even scrape users of a dating app. You look for people who recently signed up for a dating app and thus may want to get into shape for the love of their life. Each of these scenarios can fall into 3 categories: cold, warm, and hot leads. Cold would be lists like dating app or the email list. Even though we may infer these folks may be interested to join a gym, they've never declared it outright on their own that they actually would be. A warm list would be those who attended that 30-day seminar to lose weight. There's an interest in the benefit of what the gym offers, which is getting healthy. Even if they haven't signed up for our particular gym, there's some interest in the same realm. A hot lead would be one that has direct intrigue of the services that we're providing. So this would include booking a tour through our social media pages to come to our gym. The hotter the lead, the more motivated they are to convert into a transaction. So in this case, the hotter the lead will actually become a customer or a member of our gym. In real estate, our leads are buyers or sellers. For investors, it's particularly sellers. We want to find properties that people are willing to sell. So I want to ask you this. If you were looking to find a home for sale to go buy, where would you go? You'd likely search for a public listing site. This includes websites like Zillow, Realtor, and Redfin. And what makes these leads hot is that the seller has already stated that they want to sell their property. A warm lead would be something like public records. Although the homeowner may not have declared they want to sell their property, they still have reason to. There's already some sort of public notice that they are distressed and can lose their home in a matter of days. Investors that are typically more experienced like these leads, since these properties can be bought at a discount. These leads can be found on a county website. The last leads are cold leads. These include homeowners in a recent divorce, tired landlords, or vacant properties. The reason these leads are cold is because there is not a clear indication of a need to sell. So, just like in the previous example, for starting to date on a dating app, we may assume someone may want to go to a gym, but it's not factual. So, now knowing these types of leads and examples, which one is the best for a passive real estate investor? So, first, before getting to the best, let's start off with what is actually the worst. And what sucks is cold leads. There are several reasons why you should stay clear from these types of leads as a passive real estate investor, with the main one being that these cold leads are expensive. If you go on social media and type how to get started in real estate, you'll see a lot of videos like this. Start making money in real estate wholesaling with no money down. And sorry, but this is just not true. The no money down strategy means calling property owners typically from an outdated list. Wholesalers that implement this slow strategy usually spend over 40 hours a week making phone calls, not ideal for a passive investor. To convert cold leads, the key is follow up. So it can take months to convert a single lead. Once wholesalers realize this isn't a get rich quick scheme that they thought it was, they usually give up. However, wholesalers that are successful understand it's a volume game. They hire virtual assistants, pay for expensive softwares, and spend usually over 3K a month to convert these cold leads to hot ones. So I'm not sure about you, but this sounds like a second job, which is not truly passive income. As a passive real estate investor, the type of leads you should focus on are the warm and hot leads. Reason is they are low cost to obtain, higher chance of closing since there is motivation already, and they're more accurate because the data fee usually comes from the MLS or county records. You'll find a lot of folks that actually spend money on cold leads have to deal with a lot of inaccurate data and thus contact the wrong people and ultimately lose a lot of money. So, if you're looking at warm and hot leads, how do you actually get an edge? Because a lot more people have access readily available to this data. What you need is speed to be the first one of the people on a deal. And the way you get speed is via systems and automation. You may be thinking, wow, automation and systems, Ariel, I'm not a techie person. Well, no problem, because the steps I'm going to show you all relate to not having to know code, and they're just a few simple steps. So for automating our leads, we'll split them up into two parts: off-market leads and on-market leads. Off-market includes pre-foreclosures and tax liens. How do we find these property owners in distress? Now, if you go to search looking at pre-foreclosures, for example, online, you'll likely see one of these softwares as an option. They allow the ability to search for a given area, tag the list that you want, and be able to download that to a spreadsheet. Now, the biggest thing that I see passive real estate investors get trapped into is actually using these softwares, because really they're geared towards that person who has a whole pipeline of marketing already and is maybe doing flipping or doing wholesaling. These softwares do great at scale for volume, but they're not that accurate when you go down to, say, a particular county level. Where you want to focus your efforts if you're looking at off-market leads is via web scraping. Web scraping is a programmatic way to copy down information online. So for example, if you go to your county website and you look at pre-foreclosures, instead of manually writing down each one of these into a spreadsheet, you can actually automate the process. So comparing them side by side, Softwares are typically not cheap, however, web scraping is, and even if you don't know how to code, which I'll show in a moment. Data coverage. These softwares do good because they show you, say, all pre foreclosures in the entire United States, whereas web scraping is really niche and is particular to a given county or a region. Then, when it comes to data accuracy, these softwares, like I mentioned, they're great at coverage, but they're usually not as accurate. The reason is they're pulling data feeds across the entire US, and some of these data feeds don't get updated for days, weeks, or sometimes even months. So, say if a person goes into pre foreclosure, you may not see that data on the software for, say, 2 more weeks. Whereas via web scraping, you can actually have it check the website automatically and detect when a change happens. So, you could be the first person notified if a property owner has gone into pre foreclosure, thus making it more timely than using these other softwares. You may be thinking, all right, I understand if I want to go for off market leads, they can help me potentially get a discount on a property. However, I shouldn't use those softwares. So if I go into web scraping, how do I actually do it? I don't know how to code. But luckily, there's a ton of no code solutions. Browse AI is one of them, and let's quickly take a peek on how it works. Great. So you can see from that video that you can actually use tools like Browse AI, like Octoparse, to use AI bots to be able to get the data for you. And you could not only just get the data, but you can set up alerts for it and you could pass it through other applications. So this is all going to come together in a few, but let's move on now to looking at on market leads. So for on market leads, you may be thinking, how do we actually get an edge on these leads? The edge for on market leads is using buy box notifications. For example, in this video on the right, we're actually selecting for sale by owner properties. And then you could also select save search. When you save your search, you can be the first to get notified if a property meets your criteria. So, overall, for leads, if you are a passive real estate investor, you want to stay away from cold leads. As we detailed, they are expensive, and it's really not the bread and butter of someone who is looking to invest on the side versus making it a full time career. As well, when you want to look at off market leads, really try to focus on web scraping. Unless you're looking at the whole entire United States, which is way too large of a subset, you're probably looking at particular counties, maybe local to yourself. And you may only need to set up, say, 3 or 4 web scrapers if you're looking at 4 different counties. And in that case, you could be the first to be notified of a deal rather than going through a software that has coverage but not timeliness. And lastly, for on market leads, you want to make sure you create those buy boxes on whatever MLS software you use so you could be the first to know about a deal. All right, we covered leads, and now we go into my favorite, which is analysis, my bread and butter. And to kind of start it off, I'm going to go through a little bit of my story and how I faced those 3 challenges that I had mentioned earlier. So, when I first started investing, there were 3 main factors I was looking for: a cash flowing property, a turnkey property with minimal renovations, and a property in an up and coming area. Because I was starting to invest in my 20s, I knew I had time on my side. So I wanted to invest in a C plus, B minus area that could have future appreciation growth. And to find these deals, I used Zillow for searching for properties, Excel for analyzing deals, and the US Census for macro and microeconomic stats to analyze a market. And I did it this way, not because it was the best way, but simply because it was how it was taught in the books and the forums that I read. As I started my journey analyzing deals in New Jersey, I would take properties I would find on Zillow and start to bring them into a spreadsheet to analyze them. The main things I was looking at was rent. So I would look at Zillow for rent estimate or their price my rental tool. I would also use Rentometer in this aspect. This was back in 2019 to be able to plug in an address, enter in different fields, and then also see rental comps. For expenses, I would look at apartment lists for vacancy rates, and I would also look at Fred to look at mortgage rates. Deciding on what I should offer on the property, I would use Realtor for comps, and I would also look up information about the owner to see if they're in any distress, what their equity is, so I could see if I could maybe lower my offer price. For searching for an up and coming area, there were a few criteria that I was looking at. First, transportation. At this time, I was commuting into New York City 2 hours each way on a bus, and I wanted to cut down the traffic via train. I thought if I want to do this, probably other prospective tenants would as well. Other people similar to me, recent graduates in the state, living at their parents' home, looking to be able to get into New York City in and out faster. So I looked for particular towns that had train stops in them. Next, I looked at affordability, both for the home price for myself, because I don't want to break the bank in my first deal, but also I wanted to have a larger tenant pool. Typically, in, say, a recession, those who gravitate towards A neighborhoods will go down to, say, a B minus or a C plus area, depending if they say one person loses their job, and it can end up increasing the tenant pool in these areas. Also, I was looking for a high ownership to rent ratio. Typically, homeowners have more pride and improve the overall neighborhood appearance if there's a higher ratio of at least 60/40. Lastly, looking at new development. Again, investing in my 20s, I knew I had time on my side. So I was looking to see, are there new restaurants, developments being built, apartments, or other methods of transportation like a ferry that may be being built, say, 3 to 5 years from now, and I can really take advantage of future appreciation. So after about 3 months of research, I was able to land my first deal, which was a house hack. I thought, all right, that wasn't too bad, kind of manual, but definitely want to try this out again. So as I started to look outside of New Jersey, because most people don't invest in the Northeast, it is pretty expensive and doesn't cash flow too well. Tried my same process I did before, but I was met with a whole new series of challenges. Looking out of state, finding a deal becomes extremely difficult and time consuming. I'm tracking multiple markets at the same time, manually plugging each one of these into my Excel sheet to add a deal. Then I cross check each of these areas against macroeconomic stats like median household income and employment rates to confirm it's an up and coming area. Left me feeling completely overwhelmed because now, instead of analyzing a few markets, I was analyzing hundreds. So I thought, how can I use automation to better help me? I need speed to find deals quickly. I needed accuracy to make sure when I ran the numbers, the income and expenses were true. So simple calculations like 1% rule or price to rent ratios would really not cut it. I needed to accurately calculate if a property would cash flow instantly. What I want to do is to be able to take a new listing that comes on market, get rent, expenses, and comp data to auto calculate if the deal will work. I automated this process in 3 ways. First, set up the buy box that we mentioned previously to basically get the leads of properties that we're interested in. These would be sent to my email. And in this email, we would have information on the property address, what it's for sale for, as well as some information like bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage. All of this would go into a spreadsheet where now I have a row of this data rather than it being in my email. I would then use APIs to get information on the property, like rent, property taxes, and more, so that I can accurately calculate cash flow. In this example here, I'm passing data across multiple softwares like Gmail and Spreadsheet. So, how am I moving this data across automatically? The way I did it was using Zapier. And you may be new to Zapier or have used similar automation tools, but in short, Zapier is an automation tool that helps you connect different applications and pass information between them. So for this example, you could use Slack, email, Google Sheets, and I think they have over 100 plus now of these applications where you can move data. Here's a brief example of how it works. Awesome. So we're able to see just a brief example of how you can streamline by pushing data from Calendly over to Google Sheets. So we just automated analyzing a deal, right? We're able to, instead of taking the manual process of copying information, say from Zillow, grabbing data from another source, and ultimately calculating cash flow, we have now automated it using Zapier to pass information. But how do we actually take the steps to analyze location analysis? And this is where census data becomes really important. Looking at things like median household income, appreciation, and ownership ratio. Now, as I would use sites like this to be able to gather all of that data and look at it for a particular area, I noticed two main problems. First, a lot of these sites where I would look for median household income, they were way too high level. I would see information on the median household income by the state. Now, it's not enough to get that information. I need to really know down to the county, zip code, and even street level where I should be investing, not a particular state. Or I would see things like this, where it's a lot of stats on one page. So it's really too detailed and not actually driving a decision. The way I actually solved this was by taking that criteria that I mentioned before that I cared about and I put it into Python. So I then created neighborhood scores, which I have prior videos on. So I can analyze of these different areas, which ones meet my criteria the most. So if I found a property that cash flowed a lot, but was in a D area, which wasn't my essence, I wanted a C plus or B minus, I would then know right away, okay, scrap that. Don't send it to my agent. Don't look further. That deal is not in my buy box. And this really helped to be able to automate looking at multiple things all at once. So we know how to find our leads. We know how to analyze if the deal will work. How do we get notified once one of these deals meets our criteria, right? Because we really care about speed. So let's dive into notifications. So at this stage in my journey, I have my spreadsheet. My process is to retrieve new listings from Gmail, add them to my spreadsheet, and calculate cash flow automatically. I have some other metrics as well, like ratio square foot bedroom, that really helps me to assess if this deal will work. Now, I would usually analyze these deals in the evening to summarize them all at once to see what actually met my cash flow requirements. But I found this to be a problem. Although most of my process was automated, it still wasn't fast enough. I was looking to buy in Florida in a super competitive market where there could be over 10 offers on a single home. I'd be working throughout the day, and by the time I would look at my spreadsheet, the deal was either gone or tours had been booked for the week. I needed a way to automatically know when a deal that hit my buy box and cash flow criteria was available. So I created an additional workflow. Each time a property met my cash flow requirements of over $300 a month within my Zap, I would have an auto email draft that would have all the property details and the information of the financials. This would send out to my agent automatically if it met that criteria. And by sharing my calendar, my agent could set up a tour time where I'd be available without having to go back and forth of trying to figure out a time that would work. And this was all done with no code via Zapier. Now that we know how to instantly get notified, send deals to our agents, how do we actually automate the offer aspect? If you're sending offers to property owners that are distressed, like a pre foreclosure, you are not following traditional steps like booking a tour with an agent and sending an agent offer letter. Typically, there's no agent in the deal, and you are creating offers on your own as an investor or a wholesaler. Now, sending offer letters can be a tedious process, highly manual with less accuracy, which is why volume really matters. So, how do we generate, say, 100 offers in a matter of seconds? Through a quick walkthrough of how you could use a tool to be able to send those offers automatically. So we were just able to see a tool that is able to automatically create those offers if you're looking for off-market deals. The reason why I'm showing you all these products is not to sell you on anything. It is particularly to show you what is available to streamline your processes. If you are looking to go from a manual to automated approach, more than likely you're going to use a software because you are going to invest a significant amount of money into a property. So you need to run it like a business. So this is the part that you probably need to do manually is to actually sign your name and be able to close on a particular deal. You could even use a mobile notary to do so if you never want to leave your home. But a lot of people ask what comes after the close when you actually rent out a property. So for renting a property, there's several tools you could use, and these are all free. To list a rental, I usually say Zillow is one of the best. Reason is that they have a pretty big network of applicants. So, an applicant, instead of paying $30 for a background check to a bunch of different individual landlords, they pay it once on Zillow and can apply to as many properties to live in within the network. So, thus, you're going to get a lot more people because they're spending a lot less on applications. Also, their lease option to automatically generate a lease is really neat. When it comes to managing a rental, I prefer using apartments if you're going completely free option. You have the ability to collect rent, to actually do property management, and to upload invoices, for example. And they integrated the software with the previously known Cozy. Then when it comes to tracking your rental, you do want to understand how is your property appreciating over time. If you start to see, say, a negative appreciation or things that can detract your investment of being viable, you may want to look to sell. Or maybe you see a lot of appreciation and maybe you could take a HELOC against the property to put towards your next deal. And third, you can even sell multiple properties, for example, single family, maybe scale up to a 16 unit by doing a 1031 exchange. So by tracking your portfolio using a tool like Stessa is super useful. Now, these are all tools that I've used starting when I was investing in 2019. Since then, if you did want an all-in-one solution, I would suggest to use a tool like Azebo, which can start off for free. So let's take a quick sneak peek of what this is. Great. So we saw a bit of a preview of how we could use a tool like Azebo that is specifically geared towards small landlords, mom and pop landlords. Whether you use this software or another, I highly suggest to use one that is streamlined across the process. So what we've covered are the 5 steps of the investor deal flow: leads, analyze, notifications, offers, and close. Now, I want you to think to yourself, of these 5 steps, which one do you think is the hardest or one that is the most manual and in need of automation? If you guess analysis, you're completely right. This is the area that gets often mostly ignored and is stuck in the stone ages of analyzing deals via spreadsheets. Now, resources that I have for the analysis process. Specifically for deal notifications and market analysis, I do have a video on automating deal notifications for real estate. So taking the Zapier process of being able to streamline new listings and automatically calculating cash flow and having them send out to your agent. I also have videos on how to use free resources for a data-driven approach to analyze where to invest. Check those out at Tech and Real Estate channel. For those that want to skip all the manual effort of setting up processes, you can check out Coffee Clozers' quick report to analyze any residential property for free. You'll get information aggregated across many different data sources, so no more spreadsheets or opening up tabs. So you could see all the information in one place for a property. There is literally nothing like it on the market today. If you want to actually do market analysis, we've gone way further than just using census data. We look at economic data, market data, metrics, as well as amenities to comprise neighborhood grade maps to really help you decide where to invest based upon your strategy. With that, I hope I was able to provide a bit of context on how the whole entire investor deal flow looks and how it can be automated with each step. If you like this type of content, then please like this video so I know to make more presentation styles. As well, if you have any further questions on tooling to use, definitely join the Tech and Real Estate Facebook group, where we have a lot of like-minded folks, newbie investors, and experienced looking to scale with real estate. Thanks.